Oh my god! If you really thought Pennywise was done rage baiting and handing out childhood trauma, in Welcome to Derry episode 2, he just said, he'll go 2 more for you. Because my brothers and sisters in Christ, I think I just watched 2 of the most fucked up Pennywise scenes of all time. These kids just spawned into life and they're in brain play already. Pennywise really out here moving like King Von, like Steph Curry in 2016. But if you couldn't already tell, I just got done watching episode 2 of Welcome to Derry, and hellish shit happened this episode. So much drama, suspense, horror, and some massive reveals. Now I'm going to be recapping and reviewing the episode with spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you drop a like and follow, but come back after because I do want to hear your thoughts. But either way, me and you know what we got to do. We got to talk about it. So we pick up this episode with a mini flashback to that massacre at the end of episode 1, but from Lily's perspective. I really love the way they showed this scene from her perspective because it felt like a first-person shooter. But like, we didn't have to put Terry's body up there like that. Up there looked like a fridge magnet. Up there looking like a Christmas ornament. Why is he low-key hitting the John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever? Turns out it was just a nightmare that Lily was having. But that night was not just a dream or a nightmare because Terry, Phil, and his little sister, they're all cooked. As we cut to 2 Derry police officers who are just chilling and keeping an eye on Ronnie's dad, who is the owner of the theater that they're trying to pin this on. And that's when Ronnie tells her dad, like, there's no way they can pin this on you, right? Like, I told him, you weren't even there. Lily said you weren't there. There's no way they could do this. But he's a real smart man. He knows they're going to try to find a way to make this his fault. But he doesn't want Ronnie to worry about it. But also, Ronnie's going back to school. We then cut to Leroy, who just got his new crib, and he's listening to some Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke, that's way before your time. You know nothing about this. Leroy's a real connoisseur. But we see that his wife, Charlotte, and son, Will, have finally moved with him to Derry. And yeah, even though they're being friendly, other white folk are like, what? But in case you need reminding, Leroy Hanlon and Will Hanlon are related to Mike Hanlon from the It movies from 2017 and 2019. This is his dad and that's his grandpa. So we're probably going to find out how he's able to do what he does in It Chapter 2. We then cut to Derry High School, where we see a curfew is in effect, be home before dark, because Pennywise is out there saying, fuck them kids. We then see Lily and Ronnie reconnecting at school through the eyes of Marge, looking at Lily like, bro, we are trying to be popular. Why are you hanging out with the person whose dad is a murder suspect? Which is exactly what she tells her in class. Like, Marge, you gotta stop being a fake ass friend. You gotta stick with your real friends. Don't be a social climber. That's weak. But all of a sudden, we get Will Hanlon showing up to their classroom. He is a little late because he had trouble finding the class. You can already sense the tension in the room. One of the kids in the classroom pulls his chair from under him and he hits his ass on the floor. It looks like he's gonna make a friend because his pencil rolls over to this kid and he gives it back to him. We then cut back to Leroy going back to base as we see Staff Sergeant Masters leaving a room. He gives him a stare and it turns out that he confessed to being the one that broke into Leroy's room trying to interrogate him. Leroy's like, nah, that was too obvious. What kind of gun you said he used? Oh, a Russian Makarov. That's nice to know. I'm gonna need that. Picking back up with Charlotte, who's walking through this town like, man, I need to get the fuck up out of here because all the white folk are giving her some looks. Which is when she noticed a bunch of kids beating the shit out of another kid. She's like, what? Why is everyone letting this happen? I'm gonna stop this. She stops this group of kids from beating up this other kid. The other kid runs away. And this kid wanted to say something so bad. And I wish the fuck he would. But everyone's looking at Charlotte like she's crazy for stopping a fight. Which she brings up at the dinner table later that night. And Leroy's like, you gotta stop putting yourself in places that you don't belong. And she's like, oh, you're blaming me for the fact that we moved here, huh? So you could tell she's a little bit more outspoken and willing to do something about it. Which honestly, in my opinion, if you want change, you gotta make it happen. But when Will is like, stop fighting, they're like, we're not fighting. This is how we talk to each other. Oh my God, I felt it to my core. That is some immigrant parent shit right there. Their love language is yelling. We then pick up with one of the most fucked up Pennywise scenes I've ever seen. And it's poor Ronnie who's in bed with her bed sheets over her. She's trying to pull them down and they just don't stop. Her bed has like a big ass heartbeat in it. And out of nowhere, it turns to like flesh and she's like drowning and shit. But when she pops out, it turns out she was in her mother's womb? What? Pennywise is the most Pennywise. Change his name to Pennywise. A D1 Hall of Fame gold jacket wearing rage baiter. He really took the shape of her mom who passed away giving birth to Ronnie. And she was still tied by the umbilical cord. So he says, get over here. Into the mouth of Pennywise's eyes. Ugh. Thank God Ronnie rips the umbilical cord, but not before she gets her mama on. Andy Muschietti definitely had a say in this scene. But luckily, it was all a dream. As her dad and grandma walk in to comfort her, it's like nothing ever happened. We then cut to a bar in Derry with Dick Halloran and a few other soldiers at a table just enjoying their night. Talking about how Dick Halloran got special privileges apparently. That's when the sheriff of Derry walks in and he's getting pressured by councilmen and other people in the town to arrest Ronnie's dad. And he's like, he has an alibi. There's no evidence to suggest the otherwise. He's like, I'm trying to do the best I can. And they're like, well, the best you can ain't good enough. You know what to do. Or we might have a new sheriff in town. Just public displays of blackmail. Ain't nobody give a fuck in the 60s, huh? That's when the sheriff is just like so pissed that he tells the bartender to kick out Dick and all of his friends. And for a second, I thought this was Andy Muschietti in a fat suit, but maybe I'm tripping. As they head back to base, they're stopped by the security guard who says, we're under lockdown. No one goes in or out as of this moment, unless you have clearance. And of course, he's giving them that condescending tone. But when he picks up the phone and says Dick Halloran, they're like, yeah, let him in. those special privileges for real. As we cut to what I assume is an army general, you see someone spying on the army who's trying to dig up something. You see the person spying on them through their binoculars is this Native American kid played by Joshua Odjick, who was also in The Long Walk, another Stephen King movie, funny enough. But if I had to guess, his family and ancestors had something to do with Pennywise being dug up. They were probably the original family that fought Pennywise back in the day, and now he's concerned that they're fucking up the wrong Indian burial gravesite. As the general looks up to a tower, we finally learn what Dick Halloran's special privileges are. They're aware of his shine, his psychic abilities, and apparently he told them that whatever they need to find is somewhere here buried. He's like, you're on thin ice, Halloran. Which is when we cut to Ronnie talking to Lily in the cafeteria again, saying, what did you tell them about my dad? And she was like, I told him he wasn't there. He should be fine. He's like, well, did you tell him what actually happened? She's like, no, you know I can't tell him that, because if I do, they're gonna think I'm crazy and they're gonna send me back, and I don't want to go back. I feel so bad for Lily. She's really caught in a rock and a hard place, and she's getting the shit end of the stick from everybody. But I also understand Ronnie. Like, if you don't tell all the truth, my dad is cooked. The moral dilemmas in this show already are pretty damn good. What would you do in this situation? But Ronnie ends up saying that's bullshit loud as hell, and one of the teachers hears her and she gets detention. This is when we pick up with Will, who's reading some scientific book shit, and Rich apparently is a band kid who is the kid who befriended him in his class earlier. And we find out that this kid has a crush on Marge as we get this slow-mo fucking I'm in love scene. One of the little girls saying, we don't fuck with you! But someone throws a stink bomb in the middle of this fucking hallway, and as Will's running through the smoke, he accidentally runs into a teacher, and you guessed it, gets detention. And while all this is happening, Charlotte ends up going to this shop owned by this Native American woman who I think is going to be related to Joshua Odjick's character. Remember, this is Mike Halloran's grandma. But in detention, we got Will getting to know Ronnie. And it's funny how DERRY public school system is like openly telling you their stance too. They got kids beating the shit out of each other, bullying other kids, but how the fuck are they the only two ones in detention? But there's a commotion outside, and when they look out the window, they see that Lily is being taken in by the police chief again. And Ronnie's looking out the window like, girl, you better fucking... And of course, the police chief is blackmailing Lily by saying, listen, if you can't tell me exactly who was there, we have to assume that you're a suspect, and with your emotional past, you're probably gonna have to be sent back. And she's like, no, please, I can't go back. I just feel so bad for her, man. This little girl is acting her ass off. Makes a deal with her. He's like, all right, you don't have to say that he wasn't there. Police chief was like, I don't need you to say that Ronnie's dad was there. I just need you to say that you're not 100% sure if he was there or not. And that's all he needed to arrest Ronnie's dad, is they take him away. Ronnie's pissed off. She pulls up to Lily's front door and her mom answers. Again, I just feel so bad for Lily, because what is she supposed to do in this situation? But Ronnie's emotions are valid. We then pick up with Leroy, who has a nice conversation with Masters, and he brings that Makarov gun with the mag separate. And he's like, I don't think it was you that did it, because the person that was able to put the magazine in that Makarov did it in under like 3 seconds. So Leroy starts rage baiting Masters, and it takes him like 20 seconds to try to figure out how to put the shit in the gun. Leroy was like, thank you for your cooperation. That's all I needed to see. As it turns out, General Shaw admits that that entire night was a test, because they've been looking for a man like Leroy, a man without fear. Well, guess what Leroy's getting? Special privileges. While that's happening, poor Lily goes to the grocery store by herself. Pennywise says, I'm there too. Dog, putting kids on milk cartons and cereal boxes is insane. But he locks her in a box of pickle jars with the severed corpse of her body looking like an octopus. I felt so bad for her, man. And then of course it all just played out like a hallucination, so she's made to look crazy. So General Shaw shows Leroy what they've been working on this entire time, and apparently it's a weapon that is able to put the opponent in a state of fear so fierce that they might just die right there on the spot. If I had to guess, they're talking about Pennywise, but they still don't really know what it is exactly. They're digging to find it. As we cut to Lily and her mom going to Juniper Hill Asylum, they really sent her back, man. Her mom is fucked up. We end the episode with Dick Halloran saying, I told you we were close. As the military digs up this car with a bunch of corpses in it, I was thinking maybe it's Maddie and that family, but I don't think that's the same car. But I could be wrong though. But oh my goodness, Welcome to Derry is getting good. That was a lot more of a slower burn, but it was necessary because it built out the world, the lore, confirmed all those kids are dead, gave us some very interesting moral conundrums with 2 really good Pennywise scenes, as well as this military subplot that I'm excited to see Pennywise come face to face with them. And we're getting a new Losers Club. Shit, by the time we get to the finale, this is what the Losers Club gonna look like. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What did you think about that episode, and what do you think about my thoughts, theories, and opinions down in the comments below? And make sure you like and follow for more.